Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Fine look here at Juliet Casino in the backstretch of one of the most iconic mile-and-a-half racetracks. And here today at a night venue, it's race number 3 of the chase. Live from the virtual Chicagoland Speedway, it's the SimRacerHub.com Challenge Series presented live on V-Speed. Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Bradley Cooper. Messed up my own name this week. Alex Gagnon alongside me, back in the booth here after a little vacation. Adam Baker was in last week. We got to witness an excellent drive by Gabe Ellison, who dominated Indianapolis. But here, it's a little bit different story. We're back to the racetracks that you've seen Casey Carrington dominate these past 18 weeks.
Yeah, these mile-and-a-halves have really been the strong suit of the 43, and I'd imagine he'll be one of those drivers running up toward the front once again tonight.
Take a quick look at your point standings. As it sits right now, not much has changed overall. There's a tighter gap between first and second position after last week's finish for Gabriel Ellison, but it's been kind of the same. And for the top 3, you had Michael Sturgill fall out a little bit, didn't have the finish he needed last week. We've had a shortened field, so you would think that, it'd be a little bit easier for these guys to stay tight all the way to the end of this thing.
Yeah, you got to imagine this will play into the hands of those guys, not necessarily in first at the moment, but trying to keep pace with Carrington and Ellison. Prime opportunity for maybe someone like Michael Mullins to continue to add points here, as he's now only 3 points off of Sturgill for third. And he's only 20 points off in total from the lead, so a good day here for the 24 could really pay off in a big way.
Look at your race analysis as well, and they've extended these races at mile-and-a-halves to 110 laps after Casey Carrington showed him that he could do it in one stop. So most likely we're going to extend this race without a caution to 2 stops. If we do get a yellow, some drivers might try to chance it all the way to stage at lap 55. 3 tire sets available, 100% fuel, and of course, as always, on the iRacing fixed setup. And then a look here at Chicagoland Speedway. I'm so glad that we're back here. This is where racing was great in Illinois. I know the Chicago Street Course is one of the, the new fan favorites, but ultimately, I think NASCAR should come back to this place. It's multi-groove racing. It's a great asphalt surface, and I look forward to seeing, I believe, the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series come back to this venue. But with that, let's take you trackside and get that grid up on the screen, starting on the pole here today. Well, it's another one for Sheldon Atkins. He's going to start up front with a 29.659. It's 0.03 of a second over Gabe Ellison in the number 27. Dylan Rosenberg and Curtis White will be row number 2, and then you have Michael Garone and Casey Carrington for row number 3. 7th position in row number 4 is Michael Mullins with Michael Sturgill in 8th. And that top 10 is rounded off by Thomas Stokes and Craig Martin. 2 more cars here on the grid, so I guess I'll just take it from here. Jose Ruiz and Clinton Sneed are going to round out your field here tonight. And what a series we've started out with here with 20-plus cars. I know that this is kind of a usual thing that we see here for a lot of leagues when they get close to the end of the season. Drivers feel like they haven't had the opportunity, and I know they took the top 17 here. But yeah, we're gonna ride it through and hopefully caution free here tonight at Chicagoland, as we'll see Sheldon Atkins lead them into turn 1.
Yeah, and the other thing you definitely touched on there with the fact is we're getting closer to the holidays. And the closer you get to the holidays, the more and more fields start to thin out a little bit as people have preparations to make over the next couple weeks here. But we got another good group of folks here ready to do battle as the pace car will peel off.
And with that, I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Looking forward to our Christmas break, but live from Chicagoland, it's SimRacerHub.com and their Challenge Series. Chase race number 3. Oh, sideways for the 81, right out of the gate in the 22. The 3 of Sturgill sideways, and caution free out the window in turn 1.
Yeah, they had not even hit the middle of the corner yet before that one completely fell apart. Sheldon Atkins from the point lost it on the cold tires, and everyone behind him had to make evasive maneuvers.
You saw the 3 of Sturgill, the 22 of Craig Martin also involved in that. Let's take it back on the V-Speed instant replay here and take a look at what happened. Looks like the car just breaks free on the bottom. Air off that right rear from the 27. They went 3 wide and almost avoided there by Sturgill. He gets a little piece of the wall there. Clinton Sneed down in the grass as well. Looks like no damage for the 49.
Some hefty damage for the 3. The front end of Sturgill's car was completely caved in.
And a connection issue there. Let's see if we can ride on board with Sheldon Atkins.
Starts losing it, tries to correct it back, but by that point it's too late. The car loops on him, and that Miller 81 ends up backing into that outside wall. It's not what you want to see when you're leading the field into turn 1 and 2. You're trying to win that battle side by side with the car to your outside. You just get on the throttle a little harder than you need to on those colder tires, and they don't have the traction quite the way you would hope on the opening lap, especially at a night race where the track temperature is even cooler.
70 degrees in the track temperature. They tried to tighten these things up a little bit. 69 in the ambient air, so the track probably won't come down at all. If anything, it'll go up with these cars once we get under green here. But you've already got 1 points contender in the top 3, back in 10th position. He's on pit road right now. It's Michael Sturgill. And you have Sheldon Atkins, who got the pole. And he's a little bit out from the points, but, you know, probably wanting to have a good night here to cap off the season in these final 3 races. So that's a shame that it would happen like that.
Yeah, I'll say the last thing you want to do this deep into the season is have a situation like that. Not much you can do about it now, but just try and rally and recover. But we got the schedule up on screen here, seeing the last 3 tracks, 2 of the last 3 being in 1.5 miles here. Chicagoland and Homestead for the finale in 2 weeks. Making a stop in Iowa in between. That should be a fun one. That feels like a track that no matter what you put on it, puts on some pretty good racing, and I have a feeling we'll see some of that next week as well. But as you can see, I mean, it's been a long season. Early August is when this thing kicked off, and we are now in the very much the closing stretch.
Yeah, time been flying by here in 2024, and it's been a great year here on V-Speed as well. Even if I can't talk, I've lost track of my thoughts here in the recent time, but Gabe Ellison, Casey Carrington up front now. A little bit different look here. I didn't recognize that 43. Special paint here tonight with the bugles on the hood. Haven't seen that paint in a long time. You have the Armor All 63 of Curtis White, Dylan Rosenberg, and Thomas Stokes, the top 5. Double back up here as the field comes back, caught back up here. Sheldon Atkins still on pit road. He's catching back up to the tail end. We'll go back green. Let's try it again here on lap number 5. SimRacerHub.com Challenge Series. Back live from Chicagoland. Let's see if we can make it through turn 1 here, Alex. Looks like we will.
Looks like field will. So better start this time around. Everyone tries to shuffle in through that backstretch. Chicagoland, one of the more unique mile-and-a-halfs out there. The fact that backstretch curve definitely will trip at least one person up tonight if they're not paying attention at all times. So Gabe Ellison will lead the first green flag laps here. But let me tell you, Casey Carrington hot on his heels going into 1.
Carrington not cutting him any slack at all, and it looks like the 27 of Ellison gets a little loose off the 2. That'll open up the door down the backstretch. Onto the inside in 3 and 4. Maybe a change for the lead here. Carrington touches the apron, tries to keep it all the way at the bottom. Will be neck and neck at the line. This time by... Oh, I don't even know who led that lap. That was close. It looks like Ellison, by less than 1,000th of a second, was able to claim it.
Yeah, that was a dead heat coming to the line. They were identical that last time by Carrington, now with a slight nose ahead. And that Dodge Bugles machine trying to find his way clear on the inside. He's going to have it this time around, coming off the 4. If he's able to get a good run off. New leader here at Chicagoland, Casey Carrington to the point. He's got Gabe Ellison and Curtis White directly behind him, though. And these 3 cars are starting to peel away a little bit from the rest of the field. Thomas Stokes, running in the 4th position right now, is currently that leader of that 2nd lane.
Dylan Rosenberg touched the apron there through 2, slid up in front of the 66 of Michael Garone. Garone had to move to the inside. He'll take the bottom here for the top 5. Tight racing here in this top 10. You see the 3 of Sturgill back on offense after the recovery. Got that damage fixed on pit road. It looks like the front end pretty clean on that machine now. Garone loose. 3 wide down the backstretch. There goes Sturgill all the way to the apron.
Garone got a piece of the apron there, nearly lost it. And somehow we stayed green there. Sturgill and Atkins both finding their way around.
It single files out here to the top 10 now. And a couple oh-no moments for this top 5. Garone had gotten around Rosenberg, who kind of did the same thing through 1 and 2, and it looks like that side of the racetrack is a lot looser than 3 and 4.
Yeah, and that slight adjustment has been playing some havoc for the drivers early on. You know, you think of a track like Darlington as a place where you need to have a different approach in 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4, but Chicagoland being a little bit of that as well so far in the early going. We'll jump on board here with Stokes, battling for that. Well, he's in the 4th position right now. You see Atkins go on by, but he is off the lead lap, I believe.
He's going to go get his lap back the old-fashioned way with a little bit fresher tires. He's going to ride the outside. I tell you, Sheldon Atkins, without lap time, last time by, is faster than the front 3. He knows he needs to get back on this lead lap, but the likelihood of a caution coming out to get him caught back up to the tail end of the field is almost slim to none. He's going to have to play this strategy, maybe work it in his favor of a one-stop race.
Yeah, he is going to have to, his options are significantly more limited at this point than the rest of the field because he is that lap behind. If he does get his lap back, that would be huge for him should there be a yellow. But there's a very possible chance that the only yellow received lane is the one on that one.
Looking off the back of Gabe Ellison, who's 2/10 behind. That Bugles 43, starting to rack up the laps led. Got by around lap 7. Coming up on lap 14 now. In this case, Carrington's going to lead another time by. 7 in the books now. Your points leader coming into tonight, and in good fashion, as we've seen all season long, the 27 and the 43 neck and neck every single week. It's almost storybook with how these two perform, because when one's doing well, the other one's right behind them.
Yeah, it has been tail of the season here. You see that top 5 starting to spread on out. You see Garone there running the apron, trying to get a run on Stokes. Now going to look back to the high side here at the 11. Garone going to run that middle lane, trying to get a nose in there. Not able to do so, but a little over-under as they make their way down to turn 3.
Stokes gets a little loose out of turn 2, slides up the racetrack, opens up the door for the 66, who had a lot of momentum. Very loose for both of them there. Stokes able to hold the nose on the right rear panel and will have a little advantage here going in to 1 and 2. He might pull the same move if he's able to stay clear of the 3. Watching Michael Sturgill riding in the 6th position on board with him.
He's going to get all the way down to the apron here through 3 and 4, closing in on the back bumper of Garone, who's just lost out in that battle with Stokes. They're all behind Sheldon Atkins right now. The 81 was on a warpath to the front up until about 4 or 5 laps ago, and then has really struggled trying to get back up to the front to get that lap back. See, Stokes looks to his inside here to clear the lap car. And now to the inside of Garone goes Sturgill. With that damage repaired to the best of its ability, he's trying to get every point he can out of tonight. In that points battle, trying to track down the 2 cars running 1-2.
But you're talking about the 81 there making his headway, Sheldon Atkins. But I think the case here was they only ran 1 corner at speed, so these tires were pretty much even. He had a little advantage there on freshies, but once it evened out, he has fallen through this field, and partial to that, he also might have some residual damage. Yes, that car appears pretty clean. Oh, the 66 is around.
Oh.
We're going to get another yellow. We are. And Sheldon Atkins is bailed out.
A huge break for the 81. A very tough turn of events, though, for the 66 of Michael Garone. Was running inside the top 5 and went for a wild ride through the infield.
I think he got loose all on his own here. We'll go back on the instant replay and find out, but I'm fairly certain this was just another one of those surprise moments for the handling of this car. He gets help after the fact, but he's already loose. Back this up one more time. You'll see he'll get loose, and then I believe it was the 3 of Sturgill that had nowhere to go once this started.
Oh, and yeah, big shot to the back bumper of the 66. If he wasn't out of sorts before that, no wonder he ended up going sideways afterwards. And a prime opportunity for everyone in the pit here to make sure they got enough fuel and fresh tires for the stage. Be a good race off of pit road.
This also sets us up to probably make it in 1 stop. I think this puts us right back to where these races originally started at 90 laps. So, if you're wondering about who can pull this strategy off, we've seen it time and time again with the 43. You're actually going to see Curtis White pick up a position here off of pit road.
Yeah, that was a really good stop for Curtis White. He'll gain 1 spot over Ellison, but most notably, we'll get an opportunity to restart on the front row. That was not a luxury that the 27 wanted to give up. But now we'll have to drop back to that 2nd row. And a big break there for Sheldon Atkins. he will get back on the lead lap. And, you know, he was the pole sitter for a reason. That car has some speed. Now he'll have a chance to go out there and try and prove it.
What a turn of events there. We go caution free in Indianapolis. We come here. We've had 2 yellows in the first 20 laps. You're seeing a top off there on fuel for the 27 and the 3. So they are definitely dedicating to this strategy. The 3 car may be coming down to fix a little bit of that damage as well. As you can see, the front end of that car has a little dent on that Lexus logo. So I think for now, we're playing this cat and mouse, this chess match that we've seen at these mile and a halves all season. And even with the shorter field, there's still a lot of strategy going on. You've also got some drivers that were outside of this top 5, up into the top 5 now, such as Jose Ruiz, Michael Mullins, Thomas Stokes. You know, Casey Carrington was outside of it, but now leading. He's been pretty much the leader since lap 7. And it's been a flip-flop of the entire field. You've got your 2 realistic points runner-ups here outside of the top 10 to restart this.
Yeah, they've got some work to do here if they're going to try and track down Carrington. You see,
Excuse me, outside the top 5. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, outside of the top 10 would be a tall hill to climb, but
yeah.
Even for someone like Michael Garone, who I believe is 5th in the points at the moment, he actually is outside the top 10 with that spin. So an opportunity for a lot more cars to make one more stop down pit road, maybe try and top off on fuel. Everyone going to try and really stretch this thing, and I wonder if that is going to give any concern to the 43, seeing the rest of the field make another stop here.
He's on the clutch pedal. He's coasting it around as long as he can. But mathematically, he's proven that he can make it this far. He did it at, I believe it was Atlanta Motor Speedway. He did it at Las Vegas. Didn't quite work out for him there, but you know, his first victory came with a 90-lap race, and we're going to go back green with less than that. I think here he's in a good situation. I don't think he loses the lead. He probably can make it to the halfway mark.
Yeah, and that is the thing. You know, if you can make it to the halfway mark and then come down pit road, top off from fuel, try and stretch it all the way to the end of this one. Or at least the halfway mark of what we've got left.
Yeah,
that
it'll be about
42
laps. Quick math.
Gotcha. With that, you know, you might be able to stretch that if you're the 43. We've seen him do it a couple times this year. However, all those cars lining up behind him on the inside going to have that extra lap amount of fuel that may be the difference maker when this thing's all said and done.
Through turns 1 and 2 on this restart on lap 23. Casey Carrington wasting no time on that restart. Curtis White falls back almost half a second there. And then you see the rest of the field pretty single-filed out, and that was because all of those drivers had entered a close pit, so they had to restart at the tail end of the longest line, and the longest line ends up being the inside because all those drivers had a black flag.
Well, that'll do it. That certainly stacked up the field something fierce. I don't think any of them will be complaining too much. The opportunity to come down and get a little bit extra fuel may just be the difference tonight. As we're on board here with Michael Mullins. Off the rearview mirror, you can see that's Ruiz and Rosenberg, I believe, side by side.
Jose Ruiz was up there in the 5th position, now falls back to 7th. He has the 22 and the 91. Dylan Rosenberg and Craig Martin trying to snag away that 6th and 7th position. Martin gets loose off of 2, gives the advantage back to Jose Ruiz into the entry of 3. And then just behind that, you've got Michael Sturgill. The 27 of Gabe Ellison has worked his way up to 4th, but Sturgill has went backwards. He's back to 9th.
Yeah, he's starting to fall back the wrong direction here. That damage may be a little bit more significant than first seen on that opening run. Meanwhile, back up at the front of the field, we've got Carrington here making his way down the back straightaway. Curtis White right in his tire tracks going into 3 and 4. The Armor All 63 about a car length away through this set of corners. Does he have something here for the points leader?
26 laps completed. We're past the halfway mark to our stage. Lap 55. And of course, here in the SimRacerHub.com Challenge Series, no yellow flags for that stage. We will continue on green. Last week's dominant performance, bringing him within 5 points at 4-point gap. But tonight here, it looks like a little bit of a struggle for Gabe Ellison. He needs to get up there and get the most laps led, try to mitigate some of this damage. He's got 2 cars in his way with Thomas Stokes and Curtis White.
Yeah, and right now, this is the part of the race where once everyone's on, fresh tires and is able to kind of run their line, we'll see this field spread out a little bit between those who are trying to really push it early on the fresh tires versus those who are going to sit back a little bit and kind of watch this thing unfold in front of them. And right now, I think that might be what we're seeing with a couple of cars deeper in this lead group. Right now, as they're going, looks like he could be getting a little bit of a battle there. Craig Martin and Dylan Rosenberg nose to tail as they make their way off the corner.
Looking off the back of the 91 of Rosenberg. This is for the 6th position. We're talking to some of these drivers during the off days between Tuesday here, and Rosenberg feeling like he has underperformed here as of late, hasn't had the opportunities to practice. We know that Rosenberg is a fast driver, especially in the earlier part of the season. They got that 1-2 there for the team at Daytona. Then coming, the next 3 weeks, he was in the top 5 for those races, and he's since then kind of fallen back. But at the same time, I think the rest of this field has upped the ante. We got guys like Curtis White, Thomas Stokes who have turned it up as of late, and they're finishing ahead. They've been practicing more.
Yeah, and you're starting to see those reps starting to pay off for some of these guys between the start of the year and the end of the year. I mean, most notably, folks like Thomas Stokes, who really struggled in the start of the year, but lately has been a consistent threat in and around the top 5. Currently running in that 3rd position just behind Curtis White. It has been a steady mark of improvement there for the 11 of Stokes, and he's putting himself in a prime position here in the early going of this one.
Gabe Ellison starting to reel them in a little bit, bringing Michael Mullins with him. Top 3 slowly falling back to the 27 and 4th position. Talking about half a second now as they come out of turn 4. Last time by, identical lap times for pretty much the entirety of the top 5. Carrington just a little bit quicker.
And that's the thing, I think, especially with Casey Carrington that we've seen all year, is that his ability to be being able to manage the gap behind and push the car just as hard as he needs to up front while not losing any ground, but saving as much tire and as much fuel, especially in these mile-and-a-halves, has been evident throughout the year. And it very well may be another one of those situations here right now where he's just trying to keep an eye on that gap behind him while saving as much fuel as possible. No one did those cars behind him. Did come down pit road just a little bit later on that last pit cycle.
There's a look to the inside for the 24, Michael Mullins. They'll go to the bottom here through 3 and 4. Opens up the door for Rosenberg as well. 27 out of sorts here, losing ground. Maybe going a little bit on the conservation mode. Maybe they still don't have enough fuel to make it to the end. But 2 spots lost now. Gabe Ellison back to 6th. Sturgill back in 9th all by himself. Let's take a quick look on board and see if these guys are clutching through these corners. be interesting to see here, Alex, if these drivers do try to stretch this run a little bit further than the 43 of Carrington. If they can get, you know, a 3 or 4 lap advantage on their tires, I think it won't matter if they're off pace. We've seen Carrington do the same thing, but him not coming back down pit road almost guarantees that he's not going to make it as far as these guys will, where they topped off 3 times before this caution was over with. I think they can go the distance to have that tire advantage. It's just whether or not when Casey Carrington comes back out on the racetrack, how far does he pull out before these drivers get on pit road?
Yeah, that really will be the question, is how effectively will he hit the box in that pit cycle, knowing that they will not all be coming down at the same lap. And for those cars who can extend it a little bit further, when you see the 43 come down pit road, how much longer do you wait to pull the trigger, knowing that you've got just a little bit more fuel in the tank? These are some of the questions that some of these drivers are going to be considering right now deeper in the field. I think folks like Mullins, Sturgill, and Jose Ruiz, all those guys who came down pit road that second time around during that last pit stop. There's a lot of math being involved here, which is very reminiscent of the early mile and a half from this season.
And it's very reminiscent of how many times we mucked it up and couldn't do the math on the fly. Speaking of which, we have about 20 to go for this stage break. Just shy of 15 to go. Casey Carrington maintains that 0.3 of a second gap over Curtis White, Thomas Stokes, Michael Mullins, Dylan Rosenberg, the top 5. Gabe Ellison still losing ground. He's fallen probably another 0.3 here. And he's about 0.2 off of your lead. When it comes to overall pace here, Gabe Ellison, something out of the ordinary for him. You see another 10th loss there, that time by 31.3. Casey Carrington at 31.2.
That little bit of a gap, not a ton that time around, but you know, with each of these laps, everyone's going to be trying to feel out a different spot of the racetrack potentially, just trying to see where their car handles best here, especially because you don't have to worry about any pressure from behind. You can really go out there and run some flying laps, trying to find the best way around this racetrack right now. And we're on board with Rosenberg, trying to track down Michael Mullins. And that would be the 4th position, just up ahead of him. Notably, the 2 of them have closed in a little bit on Thomas Stokes for 3rd. But Stokes hasn't lost any ground really to the leader, so this top 3 pack has now become kind of a top 5 pack as those 2 begin to reel in the leaders.
It makes you wonder if Gabe Ellison and Michael Sturgill are just conserving their tires for maybe later on in this run. Do they go back on offense? I know Carrington here with the stage win, that's going to help solidify his lead again. He had a pretty sizable one coming into the first week, but it's since dwindled down with each passing week. The 43, excuse me, who didn't have the points lead all the way through the regular season, but performed really well. I know for him, it's like, you know, you get that lead, you don't want to give it up.
Yeah, you really don't, and especially when you know that there's cars behind you who have a little bit more options pit strategy-wise. The last thing you want to do is give them the track position to boot. So right now, it's been an incredibly efficient race up at the front for Casey Carrington. That gap has not extended or shrunk below about 2 to 3 car lengths this entire run. This is probably about as big as that lead's been all night, honestly. As you see now, Stokes maybe going to look to the outside of Curtis White. Not close enough to make a move that time around, but just trying to keep on to the back bumper of the 63.
They've moved it up the lane here.
Yeah, they are starting to push up the track a little bit here as these tires begin to wear. Got to imagine they're just trying to maximize their throttle time here. Running that apron probably not ideal for how low you're going to have to get on these, or how slow you're going to have to get, and then trying to rev these tires back up. Now they're starting to fade off a little bit. Definitely the last thing you want to be doing is ending up like that lap 1 incident.
Clinton Snead and Sheldon Atkins go side by side. Atkins still having some residual damage. Snead gets by on the outside, will work his way to 11th spot. Michael Garone who picked up some damage there earlier, got sent to the infield grass. Currently in the 10th spot to round out your top 10. 10 laps to go here when we cross the stripe for the stage. Casey Carrington pulls the lead out to almost half a second. Starting to clock out on the rest of this field. So now it's a matter of strategy. If you want to beat this 43, it's probably going to take a little bit different approach to pit road, when you take tires, and how you conserve your stuff till the very end.
Jump back here. There's Gabe Ellison trying to track down Rosenberg and Mullins. He has gotten right to the back bumper of the 91 through 3 and 4. Gonna maybe take a peek to the inside going into turn 1. He's running half a lane lower. Oh, he's gonna go high. Faked them out just a little bit. Gonna try and get a run here, and he is definitely gonna be alongside off the corner.
Trust in the process. You know, we talked about how he was off pace, but also not so much concerned, but questioning whether he was saving something. And there he is, right on cue with about 10 to go, starting to charge towards the front. Can he get to the top 3 spots? They still get around Rosenberg. Next one on the list is Michael Mullins.
You see he's trying to get to the back bumper of the 24 here. He has to be careful not to completely forget about the fact that the 91's behind him, because he is still glued to that back bumper. You know, when you start making passes this deep into the run, you kind of feel like you're going to be invincible. You're like, oh, well, I got by him. That's going to be the end of that. But not seeming to be the case here. Rosenberg hanging tough right to the back bumper of Ellison as the 27 continues to try and track down Michael Mullins. But you see off the back bumper of Ellison here just how close Rosenberg is keeping it.
Big run here down out of the exit of 2. He'll go to the inside of Stokes and Mullins at the same time. 2 for 1 special into 3 and into the wall for the 11. He's sideways.
That was a bad set of corners there for the 11. He entered turn 1 third. He's going to leave turn 4 sixth. Falling back a big way there. Just got a little out of sorts there off of 2 and then clipped the wall through 3 and 4. And sometimes that's all it takes. And all of a sudden, Gabe Ellison capitalizes on all of it. He's up to third, and he is only 2 spots away now from trying to get back to the lead here. You know, he's only 4 points behind, you know, coming into this race. And with that stage closer than ever before, prime time to try and track him down.
5 to go signal on that stage break, and Curtis White hanging strong. He's reeled back in Casey Carrington. Boy, I know Gabe Ellison would really love it if that 63 car was able to go around that 43.
Yeah, he absolutely would. You know, he is going to try and give it a go here. He just hasn't seemed to be able to generate much of a run against Carrington. You know, he's been able to keep him within an arm's length, but just hasn't really had that extra bit of pace that he's needed to get up there and really challenge him for the lead.
It's kind of reminiscent of Kansas Speedway, or the way the line is right now. Everyone up towards the wall. Wall riding at Darlington is the only other thing that comes to mind, but you've seen Kansas Speedway and how it is. If you can't run that high groove on that seam, especially late in the run, you stand to lose a lot of ground, and that's what we've seen pretty much around this whole racetrack. Is there's another look at it. Just about half a lane away from that wall. Of course, down the backstretch, it's just single file. Nobody's getting a run. Back out to half a second now for the lead. 2 laps to go.
It'll be a pretty convincing stage victory here for Casey Carrington if he's able to keep this pace. The big question, though, is going to be the fuel situation.
He's on the clutch pedal.
Yeah, he is trying to stretch it, and that is something that we are very familiar with seeing out of the 43 in these mile and a half. Not so much since they pushed it to the 110, but with the 2 cautions to kind of shrink this thing back down to about 90 laps or so. It is right back at the fuel save mode for Carrington, who's going to try and stretch this thing past the stage break to get the points for the stage victory, and then going to duck down pit road.
The white flag in the air. For Casey Carrington, this stage all but locked up. He just has to get through 1 and 2, 3 and 4 one more time to get the stage victory. And a pass going on back here with Gabe Ellison as you see the 43 come out of 3 and 4, but Michael Mullins gets a nose, not quite able. Ellison is going to play back on the outside and mitigate the damage. He'll get third.
Tell you what, that was a very critical battle of points there between Ellison and Mullins. Ellison second in the points, Mullins fourth. And that would have been a big 2-point swing in favor of the 24 if he was able to get there just a hair faster. Missed out by just a couple hundredths on that extra point there and taking a point away from the 27. Ellison, I'm sure, very happy to be able to hold on to that point in his hunt to try and keep pace here with Carrington, who now is going to maybe be opening the door for Curtis White. You see the 63 running that high side. He will be alongside him off the corner.
And for the first time today, Curtis White is going to take over the lead. He's on the high line. He'll take it through 3 and 4 and probably have the advantage here on the exit. First lap led of the day.
And he will fully clear the 43 of Carrington's and new leader, Curtis White. He's been running pretty solid all evening long and now has put himself to the front just after the stage break. Got to imagine, though, thinking about pitting pretty soon, though. So maybe a short-lived time at the front, depending on how the pit cycle goes.
Yeah, they've got about 5 laps left here for Curtis White and Casey Carrington. Very loose here from Mullins. And remember, all these drivers in the back of the field came back in, topped off with fuel. So they're in a little bit better scenario. And on the clutch pedal, they're going to try to stretch this as far as possible here.
And that is a continuing stretch. As you see 3, 4, 5 all balled up right now. Mullins, Ellison, Rosenberg all nose to tail down the back straightaway. And Mullins just barely missed the wall off of turn 4. He is pushing that thing right now to keep ahead of the 27. Oh, and they both clipped the wall in the 1.
On board with the 27 of Gabe Ellison. Hasn't quite been able to get back by the 24. They went neck and neck out of turn 4 for that stage. But then you saw Mullins ultimately wins that battle. And here comes Curtis White down pit road after taking the lead. This is going to be a little short here. This is I don't know that this might be too early.
I'm not entirely sure. He was one of the cars who stayed out after the first pit cycle. Some of those cars came down twice at that most recent caution. He was one of the cars who only pit once, much like Carrington. We know Carrington has been very aggressive on the clutch so far in this opening stage, but White back out on track on fresh tires. And if you are going to pit from the lead here, he'll have the fresh tires to start running down the rest of the field before they make their stops. The question is going to be if he has enough fuel in that car to make it to the end.
Yeah, it's going to be almost 50 laps here for Curtis White, and if he couldn't go more than 41, that makes me think that he most likely isn't going to make it to the end of this race. He's going to need a caution to bail him out of this situation. Not on conservation at all during that run. You could say that Casey Carrington was on the clutch pedal there to get that stage break, so he could probably stretch it an additional 3 or 4 laps. I feel a little bit better about the 43's chances. If he can go 2 more laps, I think he's good to go.
He's going to have to bring it in this time by. It is going to have to be more aggressive fuel save here probably for the 43. He'll pit from the lead, so Michael Mullins going to inherit it. And all of a sudden, with the 43 coming down pit road, we've got ourselves quite the battle for the lead. As Mullins and Ellison going to be nose to tail here down the back straightaway. Both of them, though, not too far from pitting.
"42 laps on this stint now. 24 entering pit road. Dylan Rosenberg following right behind from a third position. There goes Michael Sturgill with Gabe Ellison. They'll end up being the top two. Makes me wonder how much is the 3-car saving. He's clutching it all the way through the entry into 2.
Yeah, there is a lot of saving going on right now, trying to stretch this thing. Curious here if Ellison brings it down. He will. Can't imagine who's going to be the only one bringing it down in the next lap or so.
So that'll hand the lead over to the 3 of Michael Sturgill, who will get a lap led down and away for Dylan Rosenberg. I want to say Rosenberg maybe a speeding penalty here as he's a lap down now.
That is going to be a costly error for the 91, who was putting together a pretty good run to that point, was running in the top 5 before that pit cycle really kicked off. You see the 27 making his way back out onto the track here. Going to fall big time behind the 24 of Mullins, but will be on slightly fresher tires. But he has a lot of work to do if he's going to get up there. You see Sturgill and Garone just behind him. I tell you what, Curtis White, looking at this pit cycle, he's put himself in a pretty good position. He is about 7 or 8 seconds clear of Casey Carrington right now.
Still going to be quite the stretch here, Alex. I'm not entirely sure if he'll be able to pull that off, but since we are past that halfway point, we're cycling through our pit stops. There's Michael Garone and Clinton Sneed down pit road. Michael Sturgill still out on the racetrack. This might be the last lap that the 3-car stretches it. He's all the way on the clutch pedal again. And he's going to make it. Still on the clutch pedal. I think he's almost out of fuel.
He is rolling down pit road here. He stretched that thing as long as he could. And now is just going to barely be able to make it into the box and get some service done. He was pushing that thing as long as he could.
And with that, we have finished green flag pit stops here on lap 69 out of 110. And it's a perfect opportunity to find that remote control, those volume knobs, and let's get loud. Presented by 29 Graphics. That was Get Loud, presented by 29 Graphics. You're watching Curtis White now. He's going to lead some more laps. Put 7 in the books, coming by for lap number 8 out of turns 3 and 4. Like I said earlier, Thomas Stokes, Curtis White, both these drivers have had phenomenal upticks in their season. You see Stokes actually in the wall there out of 4, but they're in the top 2. And so for these guys, you know, maybe they don't have that horse in the race for the championship, but they definitely have a horse in the race for this win.
Yeah, and right now they are putting together an incredible run so far. White running a fantastic race. Stokes 3 seconds off currently, but in P2 and well clear of third place Casey Carrington, who just got around Jose Ruiz. So that pit cycle really shook some things up in the front of the field. Very notably, Gabe Ellison currently scoring the 6th position. He's about 5 seconds off of Casey Carrington. He's about 12 off of our leader.
Long way to go here for Gabe Ellison. You see Michael Sturgill, who stretched that run the longest of all these cars. Got about 50 laps to go, just over that. That is actually 60 to go. 55, I don't even know math.
I believe it's less than that. I want to say it's only 35.
I don't even know. 45?
For running the one, no, it's good. 75, 25 gets us to 100. It's going to 110. I think we're at 35 to go next time.
Yeah, you're right.
As it's been well noted all calendar year long, folks, math in the V-Speed booth, not a strong suit of any of our broadcasters. It has been a tough year for on-the-fly mathematics up here. We just kind of we're talking about the cars, not necessarily talking about the numbers.
So while we try to do that math, we're going to take a quick commercial break here on V-Speed. You are watching the SimRacerHub.com Challenge Series live on V-Speed. We'll try to get our calculators calculated. We'll be back right after this.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Back here live in Joliet, Illinois, Chicagoland Speedway and the SimRacerHub.com Challenge Series Chase Race number 3. Curtis White is your leader here tonight. As we look at the sponsors with Admin Box, Aspiration Homes, and finally, Rapid Fired Pizza. The first Rapid Fired Pizza opened its doors in 2015 in Dayton, Ohio. The idea was simple: make delicious, fast, and affordable pizza. Now in 25 cities across the country, customers love the fresh taste, the speed, and the ability to create their own perfect pizza. With over 35 different toppings and sauces, you can go to rapidfirepizza.com for a location near you. So looking back here at the live action, it's Gabe Ellison back up to 4th position, but he is well over 8 seconds out of this lead. And that continues to grow here. If you look overall, Casey Carrington, who will take over the point, he's trying to chase him down at 2.5 seconds back. Carrington now working on Stokes, and Stokes has to come down pit road, so that pretty much confirms for Curtis White that he's not going to make it to the end of this race. They're within 2 laps of each other. I don't even know if Casey Carrington can make it.
Yeah, that really becomes a question, especially when you consider at the time they were running 1, 2, 3. So this race could fall into the hands of Gabe Ellison or Carrington if he's able to stretch it. We've seen some magic in the fuel strategy game from him so far this year. Could he do it again here tonight? Meanwhile, Curtis White, he is looking for win number 1 on the season. If he's finding a way to stretch this thing all the way to the end, it would be his first win this year in the 19th race of the season, which would be no small feat, especially for the fact that he's currently running 6th in the chase standings, would be able to jump a driver or 2 with a win here tonight. But, you know, the odds looking a little long that he'll be able to make it on fuel unless he does some drastic saving.
Right on board here with Casey Carrington. He is on the clutch pedal, and he has a 3-lap advantage over Curtis White. So for Curtis White, I think he's making a mistake here by not saving fuel.
Unless it's a matter of he knows that he's not going to be able to save enough, so he's just trying to stretch out the lead as much as he can and then bail down pit road when he needs to. Although, if that is going to be the strategy, I almost wonder if you consider trying to pit sooner rather than later. Get yourself on some fresh tires compared to the field again and give yourself enough time to try and track down some of these cars if you think this thing's going to go green all the way to the end.
Yeah, I'm pretty much convinced here with the amount of cars that are spread out that unless somebody makes a mistake, it's going to go all the way to the end of this thing on the green flag. And, you know, that's unfortunate because we're going to approach that 20 to go mark here just momentarily. Curtis White, 27 laps on this stint. Yeah, it was just too short on the pit entry. Yes, he does take over the lead, but I think overall it's going to be down to Casey Carrington and Gabe Ellison, who is now within 2 seconds of that 43 car and closing.
Yeah, on board here with Gabe Ellison. That car up in the distance, that is Casey Carrington. It's worth noting, though, even though there's about a half straightaway gap between the 2 cars right now, Carrington is in aggressive fuel save mode trying to make it to the end of this race, which is only going to help Ellison reel him in 1 lap at a time. That gap shrinking now to about 1.5 seconds. It was 3 seconds just a few laps ago. And Ellison continuing to close in on his points rival here in a night that could be very critical for his chances to try and take the points lead going into Iowa next week.
So it just occurred to me that this ATVO was not working here through the entirety of this broadcast. I apologize for that, but ATVO was broken on this scene. We do now have it fixed. And so for all the overlays that were popping up throughout this thing, you guys saw none of them. Now you know there's 20 laps left in this race.
Now, at least we'll get a little bit here in the extra feature. As you see Thomas Stokes going around Gabe Ellison there. Stokes going to try and work his way to the front to get his lap back the old-fashioned way. He's gotten around Ellison, who's running 3rd. He's going to fly past Casey Carrington here, who is running 2nd. And then he's going to try and find a way to gain 6 seconds on Curtis White here in the next 20 laps to at least get back on the lead lap. But as they go, it is possible here we could see some lap traffic come into play for Curtis White. I mean, Rosenberg and Atkins are both nearly 25 seconds back, and they're running just over 30-second laps. So it is a possibility before this thing's said and done, but he does need to come down pit road again at some point, most likely.
Still committed here with under 20 to go. 6.7 second lead over Casey Carrington, who is in aggressive fuel save mode. The gap between Gabe Ellison and the 43 of Casey Carrington is down to half a second now as they go into 1 and 2.
That gap continues to shrink. Gabe Ellison getting larger and larger in Casey Carrington's mirror. Carrington, though, not much he can do about it, really. He has to stay the course. He has to continue to try and fuel save if he's going to make it to the end of this race. There's an onboard shot of the inside of the yeah. You can see how dialed in he is behind the wheel.
He doesn't
right
even
now.
blink.
Maybe unsettlingly so. Yeah, Carrington right now, that gap only about 2 car lengths now. I got to imagine going into 1 and 2, Ellison's going to be able to make that move.
He's there as they come out of turn 4. It probably is going to be a conceded position. This next entry, they'll go to the high line. Yeah, 43 just happened to save too much here. I think he's just trying to make it to the end. They'll put up a little bit of a fight here down the backstretch, but here comes Gabe Ellison to take over the point. And now it goes back to the question that's just been answered. Curtis White down pit road with 10 laps left, 15 laps. I don't think this is going to work out for Curtis White. He's probably going to lose all these positions. Now it's a battle. Did the 43 save enough? Now he's going back on offense. They almost lose it through 1 and 2.
Ellison has checked out from Casey Carrington. Carrington, if he can make it on fuel, he's going to have to find a way to reel in this Sim Racer Hub number 27, who is just flying down the front straightaway now. Already a half-second gap over Carrington. Ellison has put himself in prime position here late.
You can see when these drivers are lifting off of that clutch pedal, the back end kicks out just a little bit here. It's got to be a handful to try to save that much fuel. And look who's back into the picture here. Your top 3 in the points. They're top 3 in this race. Michael Sturgill now has caught past all of these guys and has Michael Mullins behind him. He's pulling away from the 24, Michael Garone, being the next driver up for. This would put 3 out of the 4 whole shot motorsports cars into the top 3.
They're trying to make this move here on Mullins. That's the battle for 4th. Oh, a little bit of a slide there for Garone. Had to kind of chase it up the track a little bit, but was able to make the move on Mullins. So Michael Mullins right now scored in the top 5, but relative to the other 3 drivers, 3 of the points drivers ahead of him, all running ahead of him on track right now. Maybe not the day the 24 is hoping for when this is all said and done. Same deal for Michael Sturgill. A good 3rd place run right now, but 2 cars he needs to track down in the points with the 2 cars running 1-2 right now.
That's kind of been the story all season for Sturgill. Anytime he's having a good race, those guys are right behind him. And then when he has a little bit of an off race, those guys still up front. The back and forth all season. I know Ellison probably only going to make up 1 or 2 points here going into the final 2 races. Couldn't ask for a better scenario, especially from a spectator's point of view. But if you're Casey Carrington right now, you probably wish that this race went green from the start. You probably had your strategy worked out. Maybe didn't have the raw pace, but knew that you could do certain things to stretch the run out. All they got thrown out the window with the 2 cautions to start this race here today. Race recap on your screen. 8 lead changes, 2 cautions. Curtis White, Gabe Ellison, Casey Carrington, Michael Sturgill, all getting laps led here today. By the end of it here, Alex, it looks like Gabe Ellison outsmarted the 43 again and will take the victory.
Yeah, it's always a cat and mouse game between those two, and sometimes Ellison gets the better of Carrington, sometimes it's the other way around, but tonight 27 looks to have put himself in the perfect position here, and coming off of that win last week to go back to back here is going to really knot up the points. He did lose out a couple points to Carrington in the stage, but the win will hopefully, in his case, bring him even closer to the 43 and will set up over the last 2 weeks a phenomenal battle for the SimRacerHub.com Challenge Series Championship.
And it continues on here with even more saving. Under 10 laps to go. Michael Sturgill now has the gap between him and the 43 down to 5 seconds. Sturgill not likely to catch him, but we're talking about almost a full second a lap here. That last time by, it was a 32.6 for Carrington, a 31.8 for Sturgill, and he stretched the run further than all these drivers. He continues to gain.
Yeah, he is continuing to make up time. It's just too little too late right now for the 3, but if the 43 can't make it on fuel, Sturgill might be able to get there and steal one in the closing laps. Tell you what, someone who's going on a spirited charge through the field right now is Curtis White. He is not going to get back to the front, but he has worked himself all the way back to 7th. And he probably is going to be able to get to 6th here before this one's said and done. I don't know if he'll be able to reach Mullins, but he can definitely get to Quentin Sneed here in the next lap or two.
Well, that time by, it was another second trimmed off there for Michael Sturgill. It's down to 3.5 seconds now between him and Casey Carrington. This is a battle for second position. 5 laps to go here for Sturgill.
And visually, it doesn't necessarily look like a battle, but, doing the math of the time gained here from Sturgill to Carrington lap over lap, it is becoming a little bit of a battle. By the time it's all said and done, he might be there with only 4 laps to go now. That gap about 3.5 seconds.
Now down to 3 through 1 and 2. Under 3 seconds off of the corner down the backstretch. Casey Carrington is in ultimate save mode here.
The last thing Carrington can afford is to not make it to the start-finish line at the end of this race. If he loses a spot to Sturgill, that is going to be tough. But if he runs out of fuel and plummets through the entire running order of the field, that could be catastrophic to his championship hopes.
Down to almost 2 seconds now. 4 laps to go. Can Sturgill catch him in time? Gabe Ellison has pulled out 5.2 seconds with 4 laps left. Now 3 to go. If Carrington has anything extra, he needs to use it now. It's down to 2 seconds. I think Sturgill's going to run it as hard as he can. Last time by, it was another 0.8 of a second shaved off.
I also want to issue a correction. I thought Curtis White was not going to catch Michael Mullins. He did so with 4 laps to go and has blown past him. The rate he's going, he might be able to catch Michael Garone here. I mean, he is by far the fastest car on the racetrack right now and is on a warpath here as time is about to expire.
Two laps left, 1.2 seconds. Under a second down the backstretch. It's going to be close.
I think he's going to get there in 1 and 2. I think he's going to try and make that move down the back straightaway. I mean, you can just see the fact that he's pushing it now. He knows he can get there.
That is incredible. Over 5 seconds in just 10 laps. He's all but there here through 1 and 2. If Carrington has anything left, he might force him out of fuel. As Gabe Ellison is coming out of 3 and 4 all by himself here on the white flag. And Gabe Ellison is going to be victorious here at Chicagoland by over 5 seconds away. And out of fuel for the 43. Sturgill's going to get second.
Casey Carrington lucky to make it across the line third. And I tell you what, Michael Garone just barely fended off Curtis White to round out the top 5. White got within 3/10ths of a second in that closing stage. Sturgill makes the move on Carrington when he runs out of fuel coming off of turn 4. So back-to-back wins for Gabe Ellison is going to put him really in a good spot here, I think, coming out of this week. Only Iowa and Homestead will remain. And I think Gabe Ellison, if he isn't the points leader coming out of Chicagoland, it is going to be basically a dead heat between him and Casey Carrington. Carrington, with a valiant strategy to try and keep himself in it, lucky that he was able to make it to the start-finish line. Because if he had miscalculated that by about half a lap, this could be a very different conversation.
Post-race interviews with your top 3. Those final results will be coming up right after this. You're watching the SimRacerHub.com Challenge Series, Chase Race number 3 from Chicagoland. More coverage right after this.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to coverage of the SimRacerHub.com Challenge Series, presented here live on VSpeed. Since 2009, SimRacerHub.com has been the premier destination for iRacing League scoring. Our mission is to provide you with the most comprehensive and user-friendly tools to manage your league schedules, results, points, and stats. Plus, our highly active Discord community is always ready to assist you with any questions or issues. You can create a league today or join the community of passionate sim racers. You can find out more at SimRacerHub.com. So with that, we get those final results up on your screen. I think Alex Gagman's got that list for you.
Absolutely. Gabe Ellison, your winner here tonight by 6.6 seconds. Played the strategy right here tonight at Chicagoland. He'll win over Michael Sturgill, who just beat Casey Carrington to the line when the 43 ran out of fuel. He'll finish in third. Michael Garone finishes fourth tonight in the 66. Curtis White looked to be in the hot seat there for a minute. Had a great rally late in that race, but just fuel strategy did not play out for him. He'll finish fifth tonight. Michael Mullins, sixth. Clinton Sneed, seventh. Thomas Stokes finishing in the 8th position tonight. Jose Ruiz, 9th. And Craig Martin, 10th. The remaining 2 cars, Sheldon Atkins finishing 11th, and Dylan Rosenberg finishing 12th.
Dylan Atkins starting on the pole here tonight and made a mistake there. Lap 1, turn 1. It put him behind the 8 ball for 99% of this race. With that, we go catch up with your top 3. I have caught up now with your 3rd place finisher. It's going to be Casey Carrington. Casey Carrington, I tell you what, man, it doesn't get any closer than that. You ran out of fuel right there at the very end across that line. I know that the fuel strategy had panned out prior to these races or before the change of the lap count, but now it seems like Chicagoland a little bit more difficult to save enough fuel.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't save on the first run, so that was the difference. Gabe and those guys came back down right before we went back to green on the last caution and topped off, and I honestly didn't think the mileage was going to stretch out as far as it did, so I figured we were all going to be several laps short, and got the saving there towards the end. When I realized like, hey, we're getting better mileage than I thought. I thought we were getting maybe 40 laps, and we were getting like 43. So like I might have to actually try to make it on one more stop here. And yeah, then Curtis starts running me down, and I'm thinking like, man, I gotta win this stage to try to to at least, who knows what's gonna happen at the end of the race, but I need to try to at least get the points while I can. And saved a little bit. Then he caught me. Then I had to go back and race him a little bit. Then I was able to save once again after the stage. That's when I let him go for the lead. And yeah, I mean, I came up a little short, I guess, on the fuel, but I was 3 laps short for most of that final run. So, I mean, I had to go into full Michigan-esque, coasting down the straightaways and cutting the engine off in the corners. And kind of ironic, though, that I ran out coming off of 4 just like Michigan.
Yeah, this is kind of seems like deja vu for all of us up here in the booth. And you and Gabe Ellison going back and forth, and then Sturgill out of nowhere chases you down from over 5 seconds back. You were talking about the mileage here, but did the cautions kind of change your strategy? I know we had 2 cautions really early in the first 20 laps. Did that kind of mix things up for you as well?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, without that second caution, even if it had been 5 laps later or 5 laps earlier, the race would have been completely different because 5 laps earlier, nobody could have made it. 5 laps later, everybody could have made it. So it took away, I feel like, the pace setting aspect of the race, because at that point I was just, especially after the stage break, or the stage ended, I was pretty much just fuel saving. I wasn't worrying about lap time at all. And sucks because I think I was the fastest driver here tonight. But yeah, I mean, hey, I've won Atlanta on fuel mileage when I probably wasn't the fastest, so I'm not going to complain. And I think the way the points shook out with the stage and all that, I think I gained on both of them tonight, so I can't complain about that, even though it kind of feels like I failed.
53 laps led. That should put you as the most laps led here in tonight's race. It's going to be really close. I'll have to check that stat. But is there anybody that comes to mind that put this 43 out on the racetrack tonight?
Yeah, shout out to everybody. I guess Craig won't be officially considered a CX2 member this season, but he's been there with the team pretty much the whole season. So shout out to him. Shout out to Aspiration Homes, Rapid Fired Pizza, all the other week sponsors, Admin Box, I think. You guys for doing the broadcast, Quentin for putting the week on, everybody for racing. Shout out to Sturgill pulling the Davy Allison tonight. I think he had surgery this morning or something, and he so yeah, I mean, to be able to finish second, even if it was a fuel mileage race, still, I mean, a P2, that's impressive when you were knocked out like 12 hours ago.
That it is. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me of that, because I know that we had talked to him post race at Indianapolis, and yeah, he said that he wasn't even going to be here. So yeah, that's hey, putting others above yourself there, Casey, and shout out to you as well. Great finish, and we'll see how this all shakes out in the points. Thank you for your time, man.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Casey Carrington, your 3rd place finisher here tonight. Moving on to our 2nd place finisher, Alex Gagnon has caught up with Michael the Stick Sturgill.
Hey there, Michael. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
I tell you what, you were tracking down the 43 something fierce there in the closing couple of laps. Just got there at the end when he was starting to run out of fuel off of 4. Talk to us a little bit about your race and about that charge at the end when you closed in. I want to say about 5 or 6 seconds in the closing 12 laps.
Yeah, I got in that little first incident, so I was kind of just hanging out in the back. And on the one incident with me and Garone, we all just kept going and topping off to try to make it on one stop. And I thought I had saved enough the first run to where I could go in and just be flat out the whole last run. And it didn't quite work out that way. I figured I'd catch Casey because of how, I mean, he pitted earlier than Gabe. And I honestly thought I might have a chance at Gabe, but he did a hell of a job saving fuel and maintaining pace. So 2nd place is not too shabby, especially when I had a surgery today. So I will take it.
Yeah, about to say, Casey alluded to that slightly, but talk to us a little bit. What happened, and are you feeling all right?
I'm feeling all right. Without getting into too many details, it's just it's hard to sit. Just put it
That's
that
fair.
way. So yeah, it's interesting. Trying to drive and make
Yeah,
sure you
no kidding.
don't you just have to drive a certain, like, I'm I put all of the stress into like my lower back, I guess, instead of where I normally put it, because my lower back is killed. But came out here, I felt like I had a good shot at it, and with everything going on, I'll take a second.
I tell you what, I mean that is a superhuman drive. Coming fresh off of surgery to put up a P2 result tonight, led a few laps in the process. Michael, genuinely stellar run, and glad to hear everything went well with that. Anyone you'd like to shout out here tonight?
Yeah, just want to shout out you guys for putting on an awesome broadcast. Shout out everyone at Whole Shot, Clinton, Michael, Gabe. Gabe did a fantastic job tonight. Everyone watching, including I think my parents are watching. Big shout out to them for taking me to my surgery, and shout out to the girlfriend. I think that should have it.
Alrighty. Well, Michael, congrats. Great run tonight, and looking forward to talking to you next week.
Sounds good, you guys. Thanks.
That was runner-up finisher Michael Sturgill, which came up one spot short to the person joining Bradley here in victory lane. It is the 27 to Gabe Ellison.
Well, Gabe, you did it again, back-to-back here in the chase, and now it looks like that points lead, if it isn't yours, is dwindled down to next to nothing coming into these final two races at Iowa and Homestead. Now, you had the regular season points lead. You lost it there on the reset, and ever since then, it looks like somebody lit a fire under your ass. You have pulled off amazing finishes, amazing strategies, just been dominant. Last week, a lot more of a domination compared to tonight, but here's the strategy. You pull off enough to go 44 laps, and I believe it was somewhere around 50 laps on that last stint. How did you save that much fuel?
Yeah. We restarted with 88 to go, I believe, and so the goal was 44 on both ends, but I only made 43 on the first end because I could have made 44, but I was riding around 6th or 7th, and I knew that if I just rode there and kept saving, that I was going to give up a bunch of stage points to Casey. So I decided to push and give up some fuel, and I got back to 3rd for that, which cost me a lap. But I still had 2-lap advantage on him, I think, so it worked out in the long run. I was really just rolling the bottom, pretty much never using the top unless I was trying to pass, even though the top was very much faster. A lot of clutching, shut the car off here and there. And yeah, just consistently tracked my marks every single lap, seeing my usage with the calculator, and I just ran it all the way out.
You were able to pull out about half or 5.5 seconds over Casey Carrington after making that pass. Then your teammate Sturgill passes Carrington at the line. What was your strategy, though, prior to those cautions? We mentioned it to Carrington that shake up there with those 2 cautions to start the race really changed the strategy. What was in your mindset to start this race out?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that there was going to be a good bit of tire fall off here, and that the top was going to be really fast on the back end of the run. And so if you had a tire advantage, I didn't think passing would be too hard. So my initial strategy was to save the first 15 to 20 laps, go at it pretty hard, and just try to split the race into thirds. I think we got that caution on like lap 20. I was running 3rd. I think I probably had a slight advantage on the couple guys in front of me. Maybe not, but that was the goal anyways. But with the yellow, kind of decided I should repit, top off, and should be able to make it. I think all of us in the call, we all took the same strategy. It just worked out for me the best.
That it did. On top here, back-to-back weeks. Gabe Ellison, after starting in 2nd, watching the 81 of Sheldon Atkins lose it into turn 1, able to avoid that. You come home victorious. Anybody you got to shout out here for another victory?
As always, thanks to Mr. Clinton Sneed putting the league on, and you fellas in the V-Speed booth, and also thanks to the wife for hanging out with the 2 kids while I do this. And shout out to Sim Racer Hub.
Should be victory number 6 here for Gabe Ellison out of the 18 weeks that we've been racing. Congratulations, driver.
Sir, thank you.
And that's Gabe Ellison, your victor here tonight from Chicagoland. What a race here. The strategy, I mean, when you have, 12, 13 cars out here and it still comes down to just a matter of a couple, hundredths of a second or a tenth of fuel, a tenth of a gallon here or there, you start to see how competitive, especially in this top three, it's been all season long.
Yeah, it really has. And, every week they go out there and it's going to be a duel between those guys. And once again, Ellison got the best of them tonight. But, that was a close call for him. He just played the math a little bit better tonight. And going into Iowa next week, it is going to be anybody's bet who is going to be the one walking out of there in the better spot, getting ready to try and win a championship.
It'll be December 10th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope you guys can tune in as we go to our last of 2 races here for the SimRacerHub.com Challenge Series. Iowa Speedway, similar to Richmond, modeled after Rusty Wallace kind of came in and said, this is how you're going to build this place. And, well, it puts on a great show. I hope you guys can be there. Again, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, only here on V-Speed. That's going to do it here for us at the SimRacerHub.com Challenge Series in their chase format. If you did enjoy tonight's broadcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'll never miss a single race. Plenty of coverage as we're picking up another league. Roughneck Racing will be coming to you live at 7 p.m. Eastern Time here on V-Speed. So if you can catch us there tomorrow night. And that'll be the first time that we've brought you coverage of that league. But for Alex Gagnon, my co-commentator up in the booth here, Adam Baker for all the things he does in the background, Eddie Smith, Morgan Cook, Christian Hill, and Logan Threlkeld. This is Bradley Cooper telling you to have a great rest of your week. Stay tracking, and we'll see you next time.